Mabuhay, Kamustika. Welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Let's see if this works better this time. It is no longer in private mode, it's back to public mode where it belongs. Now, if I can only find my own channel, which should be right here. Um, apologize for being a little late, but I was texting with my wife. Appreciate the thumbs up. Um, Not feeling the best, but we gotta get through this and stay on some semblance of a schedule. This one here, I can't even see my own title here, so I'm just gonna have to remember it. I think it's called "Did I Get Married to My Filipino Wife Too Fast?" Now, I actually had thought that I had done this one already, but could not find any proof that I had done this one before. So we're going to do that tonight. I guess we just got the indication here, as you can hear with the little time delay. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I've got my notes on. It's just some things to think about. As you know, I did get married, or you may not know, I did get married very quickly, like less than 8 weeks. Now, I had 30 years of preparation um, to get married, and I honestly couldn't see myself getting married. After that long. I appreciate the thumbs up, but and you can certainly feel that I made a mistake. Um, Marriage isn't always going to be a joyride. That's what I want everybody to know. When I say that marriage is the hottest brand going, I believe that. That doesn't mean it's going to be always a wonderful experience. Chip Shot is the first one here tonight. Thank you, Chip, and I appreciate you sticking up for me at a video that I did a couple videos ago. That was nice to have you and George stop by. Devlin, of course, was antagonistic as always. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for the four thumbs up here already tonight. Last week I started a live stream in private. I didn't know that. Some reason YouTube wiped out all my presets. I had no tags, no descriptions, nothing. And even on this live stream, it was set to public. And I'd never checked it before, never needed to, I guess. But we'll get on the ball here. I want to talk about falling in love. We fell in love quickly. When you talk about marrying a woman overseas, you're always going to be asking yourself, do I know her well enough? Do I know everything about her that I should know? Is it just too risky? And as you ask yourself these viable questions, the days fly off the calendar and you get older. And I talked about getting older. And I believe that was either the live stream that didn't work very well, it's still up there, or it was an upload. I appreciate the thumbs up. So I want to get into this. Please, I will have your comments. I'll be able to see them down here, just like I can see Chips, but I'm going to run over here and check out my notes. I'm also going to play it safe and get rid of that. So, did I fall in love too quickly with my Filipino wife? Let me know your experiences. Let me know your thoughts. As always, this disclaimer, I'm not saying advocating this for anybody else. This is just my story of somebody who had been alone a long time. So please interject your comments. I'm starting a little bit later here on the live stream just to see if maybe that helps. I don't have a thousand subs, so I can't do a post. So I just try to, make a short announcement. And by the way, I do appreciate everybody that has subscribed to Love Beyond the Sea. Please take the time to do that. I think this is a very, serious, honest, straightforward look at relationships to a Filipina, kind of the no spin zone, I think. Although, people have said, I'm too positive about the Filipino relationship. But when you start a channel like this, and it's been a little over 3 years, um, I probably accentuated the positive early on, which I think is a good thing. You get married, you're thinking about the good things, but you're also honest with yourself, and you want to be honest with others about struggles that you have. Um, but marriage is still the best, in my opinion. And one thing I also forgot to do here was to zoom my notes. So let's get going. I hope I don't blow that here. My wife and I were pronounced husband and wife. Get this, just 54 days. 54 days after we met online, not even in person. And I had to fly to the Philippines to meet her. And if things had been a certain way, it could have been even quicker. Let's say if I had a passport, which I didn't have. So had been being single for so many years made me lose my mind. But how fast is quickly? Does it take 6 months to fall in love with someone? Now I'm going to make some statements tonight that will probably not sit well with some of you. Before you marry any woman, you need to know it will sometimes be difficult. I mean, I've heard people tell me, or I've overheard, or I've read them say it to somebody else, we've never had any arguments. We always get along so well. And like I tell my wife, if something appears to be too good to be true, then it probably is. And I don't believe those comments. Usually, I think those comments, when people make those, it's because either somebody's blind, doesn't want to see where there is some trouble or some real cause for concern. They just don't want to see it. They're oblivious, um, or they're just afraid of a little bit of conflict, so they just don't go there and talk about certain things, even though they are aware of them. I don't advocate that. I think you need to, in order to communicate well, you need to talk about things that you know you don't see eye to eye with. So you just need to know ahead of time. Even with a Filipina, there's going to be difficult times. The better that you love her and lead her, the less issues you will encounter, but there will be difficulties now and then. The good times should be more than the tough times over time. Even the Bible says in 1 Corinthians 7, there will be troubles in the flesh. There will be. There has to be. You've got a sinful man with a sinful woman living together under the same roof, and their sinfulness kind of rubs up against each other, and that's bound to cause friction. That is normal. Now, we didn't know all that much about each other when we got married. Age gap, cultural differences from other sides of the world, etc. I know there are some trolls who think that a Filipino will marry a Westerner, so that is not a big deal. It's a given, I guess, if she has the chance. But staying married and earning her respect and her commitment is what I want to help you with. Anyone can marry someone. I know that seemed impossible. At the time, I was struggling to find anyone to have a relationship with before 2015. But if you drop your standards low enough, or don't have any standards at all, that helps to have a relationship. It just hurts to have a good marriage. Now, I was alone for 30 years. Yes, 30. So I would say that was for the, I don't know what, the prime of my life, I suppose you could call it. I didn't give up, didn't quit, thought about it only a little. I just didn't think I could live with myself if I did that. Because if you really quit, then it's final. And then you would be thinking, well, now that I've given up, well, you might find a sense of relief and see things you didn't see and do things you didn't do, or you might get depressed because now you have to live up your commitment of quitting. And I don't know. I hope everybody does the things they need to do to get married. Not everybody gets married, I suppose, statistically. But I don't know. Only you know about, how picky you might be, what's on your list, how hard you've tried. I'm not gonna lay a guilt trip on anybody because nobody likes to hear that. Well, I think you're too picky. Maybe you're not too picky. Maybe you just haven't had an opportunity. Maybe you need to go where you're wanted. GWYW. Try a place like the Philippines. Maybe you will be wanted there. I refused to accept the intolerable position of being without a wife. That's the way I felt about it. If I have to explain to you the benefit of having a wife, then I probably won't succeed at convincing you. I think it should be more or less a natural conclusion. I hope I don't have to convince you that being single and abstinent is hard. It is difficult because that would be an unnatural way to live. It isn't supposed to be that way. Yeah, I mean, that's a temptation. We give in to temptation, excuse me. And I've heard people say, "I don't understand why you think being single is so hard." I love being single. The sex is great. Well, then you aren't single. That doesn't count. Yeah. Sabong, let me take a look here at your photo. Last time I shaved my beard, well, technically I nick it up just about every week and a half or so. As far as completely off, man, I don't know. Probably the end of 2020. What are we now? Mid-March. So yeah, probably before the new year. Um, but you're right, Sabong. Culturally equivalent to long hippie hair in the West. I agree. I agree with that. That there is that sentiment. The first person I ever talked to on camera in the Philippines um, was, oh, how should I say this opposed to my facial hair. I also had longer hair, and they weren't shy about telling me they didn't like that. In fact, my wife wasn't too fond of it either. That was then. Now, with her being here in America for the last 4 years, what she didn't see in the Philippines, facial hair, she sees it all the time, and she sees it on the television shows, and she thinks now that I look better with a beard, and my wife is usually right on these things, and I have to agree with her. I do feel like I look better with one than without one. I mean, I wish it would just never have to. I wish shaving never had to be done. It's kind of a necessary evil. But you're right, and men should be aware of this. That's why I've made a video. I don't remember what I called it. Hair today, gone tomorrow, something like that. It's about Filipina's preference for clean-shaven men. Now I need a haircut, that's for sure. I just got one actually, but the girl that cuts my hair went really well. She just seemed like she wasn't in her usual good mood. She wasn't talkative, and I kind of figured like maybe she wasn't going to pay attention. So I may just go back earlier and do it again. But this is something again you should talk about, knowing ahead of time, like you said. She probably, or you're implying, she's probably not going to be in favor of having long facial hair, but you will see if you've watched different videos, vloggers from the Philippines, there are women who do either tolerate their husbands or their boyfriends' facial hair, or they want it that way, but that's really something between the two of them, whether they're going to like the facial hair or not. I do appreciate the thumbs up tonight. When I was single up to that time, and I was married. I was 53 when I got married. It wasn't for a lack of effort. I finally had to go where I was wanted and got married because now, back then, I had options. I found women I could chat with who also wanted a husband. Maybe just not one with a beard, but later on my wife was okay with that. Imagine that. I picked the one. Imagine having options when you're just assuming you're not going to have options. But that's dating in America, online dating in America. Imagine that. I picked the one who first indicated they wanted to focus on me. They wanted me to focus on them. They wanted someone who was serious. And you know what? I obliged her. And we got engaged in 18 days, 1/8, less than 3 weeks. And I made marrying her my top priority. That's what I wanted. Never wanted a girlfriend, didn't pray for a girlfriend, was looking for a wife. That's what I got. So I would understand people asking questions like this, since we got married so quickly. Makes me think of the business rapid visa. Well, we had a rapid marriage. They could ask, are you sure you love her? And I'll talk about these tonight. But please leave your comments too. I really prefer to have somebody, to interact with. I think that's just makes the whole channel experience worthwhile. You ask, and then I respond. So they would ask me, or they could, are you sure you love her? How do you know it's love? How do you know she loves you? Would it have made a difference to wait longer, like another 3 months or 6 months? What if she reveals something about herself later that is kind of disturbing? Was she going to be different after marriage? Isn't this too soon to say you love her? You could even say, are you in love with the idea of being in love? And, I did have my pastor, I have a video on that, who I was talking to before I met my wife. And so he would kind of probably, excuse me, ask me questions similar to this, especially as we got started. I would meet with him and say, well, here's what's going on. I found somebody, they're 9,800 miles away, and ask me anything you want because I believe you are less likely to be fooled if you have some accountability. But don't just rush out to find somebody to keep you accountable because not everybody can do that. A lot of people will only kind of stay out of the way. They don't want to ruffle your feathers. They don't want to rock the boat. But you should, if you can, find somebody to keep you accountable. Adam Theory, you're late to the party. I started a little bit later tonight, Adam, probably just to make sure you had a chance to get in here. I am talking today about going into some detail about why we got married so quickly, or excuse me, from the perspective of did I get married too quickly? And these questions here that I will ask and answer here that I just went over will help you to understand my frame of thinking. There's no way to deny that I got married very, very quickly. It had been 30 years since my last relationship. And I know that's embarrassing, but it's not embarrassing to say that I am married. So I did get married, and everybody, I hope you can learn from this because I'll explain. I'll explain what I was thinking. If you're thinking, and there probably are foreigners that just say, "Wow, she's attractive. Man, I can't wait to show her off to my friends," or "I can't wait to be like these people in the Philippines that have these easy, quick relationships, and if they lose one, they just go to and find another one." Um, I was looking for marriage, but again, I also knew I wasn't going to know everything about her. I wasn't going to go into it scared because I just don't think you can give your best if you are approaching things from a lack of trust. And I've got some videos on trust because we're not going to talk about that today. We'll be here for hours. Unless you want to ask a particular question, that's perfectly all right. Because, I mean, this is one opportunity just for me to talk and explain what was I thinking. I'm not ashamed or second guessing it. I wanted to get married. Like I said, I knew there would be conflict. There has to be. You want to minimize that conflict by marrying someone that you have reason to believe you have enough compatibility with. It's interesting. I've done a video or two on chemistry, and I'm not even sure you need great chemistry. I mean, that wasn't a part of my preparation here tonight, but how much chemistry did we have? Well, I don't think we could have had too much chemistry considering we had never been together in the same room. I see pictures here of us together. We weren't together. We were online. So I do believe that it is possible to create chemistry. And I talk about how to do that in some of my other videos. So Anna says, I wish I got married in my Philippines as fast as you did. Stupid COVID stopping us. Yeah, I feel sorry for you, Adam, that COVID situation got in the way. My wife and I are wanting to go back to the Philippines in December. We were just there 2 Decembers ago. So it'll be about 2 years come December. And my travel agent says that she's been keeping her ear to the situation, and she thinks that in June there might be some good news about that. She does not think the airlines will mandate vaccinations. I really don't want to get vaccinated, and I prefer my wife not get vaccinated until we have more, especially her, she's younger, till we have more opportunity to see what happens. But I don't think the airlines are going to shoot themselves in the foot with that. I think that's against our constitutional rights to mandate vaccines for, this public transportation. Private transportation, they can do that. There's a cruise line that is doing that, and I guess that's their right. But the Philippines, I mean, how low do they want to go with their economy? And if other countries, especially the U.S., can start opening up, I think there's still plenty of time for the Philippines to decide that they're going to do something like that as well. So hopefully, Adam, you will be able to keep up with that. And if you have to, consult a good travel agent. Our travel agent has a niece in the Philippines, so that's why they have an interest and have been keeping up on it already, before I even talked to her. Sabong says, just to catch up, how long has your Philippine or lived in the United States? We are here in Nebraska, and this is year 5? We've been married almost 6, and almost all the time we've known each other, it's been as husband and wife. We really didn't date. Okay, so yeah, we got married real fast. As far as the weather goes, when she got here, we, in short order, went to the place where we get a what do you call it, social security number for her, and it was really cold. One of those cold days that if you, for some reason, didn't put gloves on, you feel like your fingers can fall off. It was early January, or late January, early in the year, and it was cold. It was so cold, I'm still coughing 5 years later. No, I have this neurogenic cough, and it comes and it goes, and there's just nothing I can do about it. But the weather, she got used to it. I have a video, excuse me, and this is a couple of weeks, well, maybe 3 weeks old or so. Last time we had a big snow, and she was out there making snow angels in the snow. We had at least 13 inches. I think they were saying we could get 16, and yeah, work was shut down and everything else. And she was out there barefoot on the deck. So I'd say my wife has gotten used to the weather. And that's a good question, Sabong. When we were in the Philippines and we were up at a resort up in the higher elevation, it was like 70, 72, which I think was beautiful weather. She thought it was cold because it's colder than what she's used to. This might likely be a Green New Deal initiative and air travel. You know, it may be a long memory. Well, I hope not, Sabong. I mean, there's really nothing we can, it's out of our hands. But I would be I would be surprised. The industry is so important. And with people getting vaccinated, although 40% of Americans, the last I heard, are saying, no, I think I'd rather wait a while. It's at least 33 to 40% are saying no, not yet, at least. If not, no, never. Um, Airlines, I don't know what their rules are right now because our trip isn't coming up yet. We have until probably August or September before we got to decide whether it's going to happen or not. And I'm not really up on the Green New Deal, to be honest with you. Um, Anything's possible, Sabong. I just hope that common sense would prevail and people can be traveling. You know, there are people waiting to get from the Philippines elsewhere, another country, and people to go to the Philippines. I mean, a month or so ago, my wife and I could have gone. I would have had to get some kind of a 9A visa. I think it's in my notes that I talked to from a nice Filipino at the embassy in Chicago. Then about a week or two later, that was waived, so I didn't even need that. But then a week or two later, now I can't go and my wife can't go. So I know it's frustrating to my wife. I want her to see her family. I want to go there too. But we have plenty of time, and I have empathy for people that have already had plans to go. And I hope, for your sake, that that happens sooner rather than anyone. Uh, it's a bar. I'm talking about the weather. Oh, a month in RN is too cold for me. Well, you know, the strange thing about the weather here in the Midwest, Sabong, is there are days when it can be 35 degrees. And I mean, freezing is 32 degrees Celsius, they say. They can be 35 and it can be nice enough to go out for a walk because it just doesn't feel bad. If there's no wind and you got sunshine, 35, 40 degrees is very good weather for going out for a walk. However, the other day it was 55 and 60, just a couple hours earlier. The wind was blowing so hard and it was so cold and dark that I just passed on taking a walk. It all kind of depends on the wind and the sunshine. But even my wife now can go outside and not feel like she's in danger of her life because of the weather. This whole drama is closer to a slow motion World War III than any concern with the respiratory virus. Sabong says, I mean, people are dying. It's just that for the most part, the people that are dying would die if they had gotten the flu because they're 80 or above with multiple comorbidities. Otherwise, you have about a 99.98% chance of surviving. It does concern me when people are 40 years old and die. A Nebraskan just died. He was about 40 from getting the vaccine, but he had issues. He had health issues. The elderly that are, dying after taking it concerns me. I'm kind of getting to that category myself. My wife is 32. I don't. She doesn't. She doesn't take any meds, and she's never gotten a flu shot. I think this is just in a wait and see, type of situation for me. Sabag says, I'm on the Oregon coast. I've been here a year with my Philippines, Asawa. If the wind would stop, I could say it is nice weather. Yeah, that's the thing. The rain, the wetness, the wind, lack of sunshine can certainly contribute. The sun that comes out really, really can warm things up. So it's not always here, in the Midwest, so much the temperature. It's other factors that go along with that. So I appreciate your comments. Talking about getting married so fast. I'm not saying you or anybody else should do this. I didn't even know it was happening as fast as it was. So now let me answer the questions I posed, then explain why I answered them that way. No, I don't believe it is possible to fall in love quickly. That may be something you take issue with. That's okay. I don't intend to block anybody, so you can always leave comments. But I don't believe it's possible to fall in love quickly. People talk about falling in love at first sight, and that sounds nice and all that, but I just personally don't buy that. We did get married extremely quickly. Am I saying that I didn't love my wife? We got married so fast. I don't believe in falling in love so quickly. Am I saying that I didn't love her? We got married in 54 days, and we had to make our wedding vows in the Philippines. I really love the Philippines weddings. I think they're fantastic. But I say this because of the way I define love. I think love should be defined so we know what we're talking about, or at least that you know what I'm talking about. Very often, love is seen as an intense feeling of deep affection. And those feelings, while wonderful, I don't think will help you stay married, but commitment will. Sometimes with commitment, it's just grinding it out through the tough times, like an athlete in a slump or a team in a slump. They just got to keep grinding until things get better and get past it. And all the successful teams and players have to do that. I'm a big sports fan, so occasionally I'll toss out a sports analogy. Michael V, thank you for joining me here today on Love Beyond the Sea. Michael says whether a marriage works out or not, I don't think has an effect on if they marry too quickly. I don't think has an effect on if they marry too quickly. And I think I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you on that because, I mean, I can't marry my wife quickly. I have to take responsibility. I'm the husband. I feel like I am the head of the relationship, and I am responsible before God to make good decisions and lead the relationship. I won't always make the exact right ones. My wife won't always like what I think is best. And those are adjustments we have to make. But I'm not going to get married quickly and then say, oh my gosh, I got married so quickly. Things are going to fall apart. No, as whether we took 3 years or 3 months or less than 8 weeks, once you're married, if the commitment is there, then you start and you figure out together what it takes to work. So commitment is the thing. There are people that get married, what do you call them? Arranged marriages. And they probably do know something about each other. I mean, their parents probably know something about their son and daughter who are getting married. They may not have any interaction before then. And so, is it possible? Yes. I mean, I would have married my wife even faster if I had a passport, and which I got, and I got expedited. They were having a passport weekend, thankfully, when I started looking into getting a passport. And so I went there, and then I got expedited, got time off work. Fortunately, it was relatively early in the year, it was like April. So I had vacation time I was going to spend on this big decision. So that's what I did. Michael says lots of couples date for years, get married, then get divorced. Well, that's true. So, And then there are people that get married real quick. I've seen or read articles, stories, whatever. People say they got married in a week or two. And this may have been a long time ago, but they were married for 30, 40 years, still are. As one guy told us one time, he was asked, he was married 63 years at the time, and he was asked, what is your secret to staying married for 63 years? And the guy replied, I've learned that I would rather be happy than right. Something like that. It's just those concessions that you have to make. Zabong says, you will have everything you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. Well, you do have to be careful. People say, I want a younger wife. I want one of those young things that give me a 20-year-old Filipina that all these other vloggers have. And I'll just wind her up and she'll think I'm wonderful because I'm from America and or from the West, and everything will be great. Well, no, because it still comes down, as they say in sports, winning in football comes down to blocking and tackling. It comes down to the fundamentals. Nothing fancy, just the little things, the fundamentals. And couples that can get married quickly and stay together a long time, they've learned how to execute those fundamentals. Whereas if someone went through a quick marriage, they might not have known some things. Maybe some important details were left out. I don't know. Or maybe they just reacted incorrectly at the first sign of conflict. And that's easy to do, man. It's easy to lose your temper, overreact. I've certainly done that. I think most people, if they're married, could admit to losing their temper a time or two, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10. It's learning how to bounce back, learning how to handle conflict, and so on. And the longer you're married, I would like to think the more you have made mistakes, going to make them, and then learned from those mistakes. If you have the commitment, you go into it not expecting perfection in you or her, then the better off you are to succeeding. Yeah, dating is often used as an excuse to sleep around. Michael V says, and I know people can say, well, singleness is great, because they like the sex. Well, biblically, they shouldn't be having it. Because I think if you want the best life, you get married. Okay, if you're 16 years old, get married. 18 years old, get married. But we wait longer and longer these days. I don't think it's a good thing. People say, well, you have to go to school first, or you have to go to school first, then get a good job, then get married. Why waste all those years? Again, I may say things that you disagree with. You're fine to agree or disagree with it, but I had a lot of time to think about these things. I am 59 years old, and I do feel like I've learned a thing or two, and some of that from my mistakes. That's what Love Beyond the Sea podcasts called Casting Beyond the Sea on lvbts.com. If you don't want to see me talk, you can listen to podcasts on there. I've got about 101 up there right now. Sabong says, thoughts or wishes, just talking about separation will lead your life down that path. What God wants, God gets. You are married on his timeline, which you are destined to fulfill. You said a mouthful there, Sabong. You said a mouthful. Could probably make 2 or 3 videos out of that one comment. Very insightful. Yeah. All actions begin with a thought. I suppose the thought is preceded by some kind of motive, which might be to satisfy some kind of need. and then the thought leads to an action and a perceived response. Dating is carefree. I'll just go to the Philippines and hook up with a Filipina like these other guys do. Well, you don't know. I don't think they're going to show you the bad things, and I can't either. I owe that to my wife. I'm not going to throw her under the bus, but I do want to say things that help people. But Sabong said a lot there. Once you start thinking, well, you know what? I deserve better than that. I got I got dissed. She shouldn't have disrespected me that way. You know what? I'm going to go out and do something and teach her a lesson. Well, maybe she will take it the wrong way. I mean, there are times when you do the best you can to talk through important things. And, sometimes it works out. Sometimes maybe it doesn't work out right away. And you have to agree or disagree. One thing I do say, though, is as the husband, it's my responsibility what I allow or disallow before God. It's important to me. This is why I've always tried to defer to my wife. I don't want her to do anything wrong. I told her I don't think she should get the vaccine. I told her why. I told her she's not my employee, slave, or child. She's an adult. If she wants to get it, she can get it, but I don't want her to get it because the masses are getting it. 40% of them aren't yet, and some may never get it. It's a confusing situation. I do not want her to do anything without getting as many facts and long-term risk. Nobody knows. Nobody knows about that. But I did tell her if she gets it, I'll get it. I'll be a team player. If she gets it, I'll get it. And I could get it. I just, in the mail a few days ago, they said, schedule an appointment, go to this place, you can get it. Well, that's nice, but for now I'm going to pass on that. But the decisions I make, I take them very seriously. I don't just haphazardly say to anyone here, oh, just tell her the way it is. You better make sure the way you think it is the way it should be, because there's always consequences, and sometimes there's some pushback, even if you may have made the right decision. And there are times in my videos I've talked about some difficult situations where I just had to say, nope, I can't agree to this. I just can't do it. Otherwise, I try to defer to my wife because I want her to be happy, and I don't want her to get the impression that I'm trying to control her. But yeah, you start thinking about, well, I'm being wronged. I'll do this just once, and things could blow up. Yeah, down that path. I waited a long time to get on this path, and I don't want to get run over because I started getting complacent, started making bad decisions, started getting selfish. I don't want that. Sabong. What God wants, God gets. That's a scary thing. I mean, can go in different ways. God wants to discipline me for being a bad husband or something. He will. He wants to get me to line up right. He will. He'll get my attention. Be better just to try to figure out what he wants me to do from the start. And I think we were married on his timeline. I know that, but boy, what would I have done if someone would have said when I was 24 years old, 25 years old, and I'm out there looking for a wife, and then some prophet, like the prophet Nathan, comes up to me and says, son, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is God's going to give you a wife. Now the bad news. You're going to have to wait 30 years to even meet her. She's not even born yet. And she's about 10,000 miles away. I might have just looked for a gun and put it to my head. That would have been tough. So there are times when it's nice to not know what your future holds and just try to keep going day by day. Let go, let God. Even the birds have enough to live and thrive. How much more will He provide for man? So Bong is right on. Like the Bible says about birds, not even a sparrow falls to the ground without the knowledge of the Father. Just a sparrow, a dime a dozen. But yet, when one dies, God knows. He knows everything. Even the hairs on our head are numbered. I tell my wife, I've numbered the hairs on her head. I told her the other day, while she was resting, I said I counted 97,400 hairs. Beautiful black hairs, maybe a few silver ones in there now, but that's just my way of saying that she is important to me because God knows all those little details about our life. So you're right about that. Why don't you live in the Philippines and have a big family and start something that will go down favorably in history? Change the timeline. Well, we tried, Sabong. We tried. And what would have been a minor miracle before would probably be a major miracle. And I just don't think it's healthy or rational to be thinking that's going to happen. I don't expect it to happen. I've been told by 3 doctors, including uh, male fertility, what do I want to say, professor or expert, to my face. Don't expect that to happen, and I don't. Um, they say stranger things can happen, but you know, you gotta be realistic too. But yeah, every Filipina, by and large, wants to have at least one child, and I just sadly don't think that's going to happen. But I think my wife knows that I've done everything I can to make that happen. As far as living in the Philippines, well, I would like that too. We have a house there. I've been there 4 times, so would love to go this December because my wife would like me to see what it's like over Christmas. We saw New Year's, that was nuts, but Christmas would be something to see. That starts about September in the Philippines. Um, I don't know. We'll have to check into medical things when we're there and ask some very pointed questions because I'm not going to go there and die. I don't see any reason to just go there and commit slow suicide. So if I get what I need health wise, we can go. My wife might not want to go. That may have been the thought before we got married, but you know, uh, she likes America. She likes the Philippines. She notices now by about 5 years here what the differences are, of course, because she's living those differences. She's got her own car. She's got her own bike now. Um, she likes the fact that, yes, she still is obligated to help her family. Um, that's just a fact of life. But she does have probably a greater degree of independence than she's had before. And so, I think she would, if she could, would prefer to be able to move back and forth. Um, and that's possible. I mean, ultimately, I'm going to be gone before uh, she's got a lot more life to live. She may go back and forth. I don't know. If she gets her citizenship, which I want her to do only because of being able to travel easily, more readily, then we have to make a trip down to Chicago and get the reinstatement of the Philippine citizenship so that she can become a dual citizen. And then we would, we could go back and forth. It all depends. Just too many things that need to be looked at there with where you're going to live and how long you're going to be gone. And things like that. She doesn't have any medical issues, but which helps. But we'll see. I just hope we're there in December. Yeah, Sabong mentions the culture of infidelity. U.S. not so much. There's certainly the idea of mistresses in the Philippines. It's all too common. Sometimes they live in the same neighborhood, and maybe their children even play together. And it's just something I should have included and would have included in my video live stream a week or so ago on making marriage great again. So many things that just they just show they get in the way of seeing marriage for what it is, because there's so many distortions out there. Substitutes would be a softer word, but I still think and will maintain here on Love Beyond the Sea that the best thing is marriage. Thank you, Sabong. I don't know. I'm trying to be realistic. I think it's healthy for my wife to know that we're not gonna have family. If God wants to intervene, that's fine, but I'm not going to be presumptuous because I just don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I could have 25 years left, Sabong says, if the government doesn't um, get you. And as a conservative Christian, yeah, the government sometimes wants to get you. Appreciate the thumbs up, everyone. I really do appreciate your comments here. Um, so I will show this. Yeah, I just technically there's time, but there's only time to put anyone through college if you can have a child to put through college. So um, I just don't. I don't think that's going to happen, and I think the sooner that I come to grips with that, and the better. It's just something we need to do. The first time I saw a pulled a pointy object, I knew she was the one. Well, whatever it takes for you guys to click, and relationships are strange things, but I think they're wonderful things. When I grew up and I saw people together, and maybe they were unlikely people to be together, or I thought sometimes, well, they're probably those two people are probably the only two people that would be right for each other, but God put them together, and they were right for each other. Very often we say things like, so I'll talk about love, describing that. We say, I love the Philippines, which means I have an affection for that country since I met my wife there, and it is a beautiful country. We might even say we love this particular athlete or actor until they get traded or say something we don't agree with politically. We might say that we used to love someone. I say I love these colors, or I love these clothes of my wife because they have sentimental value to me, or I love the way her hair looks or something like that. But yeah, sometimes we say, well, yeah, I used to be in love. How can that be? Do we just fall out of love? I would question if it was love in the first place. I'm going to talk about love a lot tonight. I'll try not to take too long. So please chime in with a comment or question as you have been. We're going to talk about love. And did I fall in love too fast? Believe it or not, some people think, this is hard to believe, that they can beat and even abuse another person, but still maintain that they love them. Have you heard of that? I have. What on earth is going on in their mind? I have beaten you, yet I still love you? Get that crap out of here. Feelings come and go. They depend on our circumstances. We might say, I'd love to go there someday, but never make the effort to take a vacation to that destination. Maybe we don't feel that strongly about it. The kind of love I want in my marriage is forged over time, through good times and bad. It involves giving, sacrificing, meeting needs, putting another's needs above your own. It isn't concerned primarily with what it receives, but what it gives. In my opinion, this doesn't happen quickly. My commitment to her was to love her. That's what I told her I was committing myself to do, and I would have accountability to someone that kicked my butt if I was failing to do that. I'm going to answer the 7 questions I mentioned earlier, but let me quickly recite 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, because this is my basis for love. It's not mystical, it's not ethereal, it's understandable. This is love. Love is patient. First thing, most important, believe me. Major on this one. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love, and this is the ending of it, because I think this is what you really need to grasp. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. See, it just, no matter what happens, if the commitment is there, you're gonna bear it. You're gonna believe things can get better, even though right now it doesn't look good. You're gonna hope it can get better, even though you're getting tired of bearing it, and you're kind of losing the belief that you're going to see things change. But you still hope, and when the hope is gone, you endure. That's love. Let's face it. That's a tough definition. That's God's definition, so I take that seriously. So I've just shown you exactly what love looks like. And it is a high standard, but we are talking about love, which is something God takes very seriously himself. That's why he um, paid for our sins by punishing his own son who had not sinned, so that sinners could be forgiven and have everlasting life. We talked about in the other live stream about growing old. Well, yes, we were growing old and it sucks. I mean, there's some good to it, but it sucks a lot too. But it doesn't have to end there. So this definition of love, that's an excellent checklist to have for anyone at the end of their day to evaluate their level of commitment. I don't know what you mean there, Sabong, by Lassing. I've not heard that one. I broke 2 hearts in the Philippines before I realized I was not willing or able to break a third. Also, I believe my Asawa used the tribal elders to create a bit of love potion number 9. Well, that can help too if you're fortunate enough. Love is to be taken as serious as a mighty oak tree, but it must be protected like a young sapling in the early years. Very good statement. It's not easy. And I don't want to judge people when their marriage ends, because I'm not privy to what's going on. It's really none of my business. But I just want, since I have a channel and it's about love beyond the sea, that I have to say love is not always easy, as I just described there. Does this sound like a joyride? Love bears all things, believes all things. That means you believe it can get better no matter what. Hopes all things, even though it doesn't look like it. Endures all things. So it starts with suffers long, which means to be very patient. Ends with endures all things. Everything else is in between. You get that down. If you understand that and you commit yourself to being that type of man, I would think you wouldn't have too much trouble finding a woman, because what woman doesn't want to believe that some guy is willing to commit to her that way? I think she would want that. The question, are you sure you love her, Bob? You got married in 54 days. Are you sure you love her? If asking this question before I married her, then my answer would be that, well, I will love her. I am going to love her. Anyone, and I mean anyone, can say or feel or believe they love a woman. Women can be very lovable, but they haven't married them yet. And it is easy to love them when there is no commitment necessary, when you have a safety valve. It gets tougher after marriage, even to a beautiful Filipina with long, beautiful black hair and short and light brown or dark brown skin. It still, isn't easy. It's not always easy because our sin natures are going to clash, resulting in conflict. Then we're going to need to handle that conflict in a way that can bring restoration to the marriage. Ephesians 5 in the Bible commands husbands to love their wives as Christ loved his bride, the church, and gave himself up for her. That's quite the responsibility and commitment that begins when married. Don't have to do that until you make that commitment in marriage. So, whoever you decide to marry, however long you take to decide to marry them, then you got to be able to commit to them. And when Christ loved his bride, the church, what does the Bible say? Says in due time Christ died for the ungodly, and we were sinners. Christ died for sinners. He didn't die for beautiful, perfect, wonderful people. Until that wedding day, I believe a woman is fair game, even while being engaged. What I mean is, if someone comes around that pursues her aggressively, she doesn't absolutely have to marry the one she's been engaged to. Yet another thing that might cause you to raise your eyebrows. It is up to him to commit to her and marry her before someone else does. I've shown interest in an engaged woman 2 weeks before she was supposed to get married. This is before I met my wife, of course. If she wasn't happy with her fiance, she should give me a chance. She could give me a chance. In this case, it was her fiance who put a stop to it. She should have. Once married, that's it. There can be no other competition or options for either. Just like you shouldn't take anything for granted before marriage, you shouldn't take anything for granted when married. Scammers are on the rise, Nico Greco says. Yeah, scammers are on the rise. Well, one of the reasons is they're good at sharing notes, and anything new that seems to be working, they will share, and you have to be observant, I guess, for red flags. But that's always been there, and it probably always will. And which brings up the point that there is some risk, and you just have to be discerning, because scammers are definitely out there. Nico says dating sites are a trap. Well, they can be. I met my wife on a dating site, but she was 9,800 flight miles away. I didn't really have any other choice after realizing I had to do something like international dating site, and it worked for me. And so would like to help other people with that process. Although most of the things I say will be about being married, because that's hopefully what you want, and that's what I want to share with people. So one of the questions I asked earlier: how do you know it's love? How do you know it's love? Isn't that a Van Halen song? Probably a different title. Since there will be emotions and sexual attraction at work when involved with someone, like I said earlier, that shouldn't be misconstrued as love, which is an action. Getting married as quickly as we did, with me proposing on day 18 from the other side of the world, how was I going to be able to actually love her? I could do that if I married her and we were together, like we have been since early January 2016. I think love comes after we are married. For instance, staying committed to her no matter what, focusing on my responsibility to do what is best for her, which is what Jesus did for his bride, the church. It's love when you are more concerned about meeting her needs than having yours met. Luke 6:38 says, "Give and it shall be given unto you." I haven't had to be concerned about getting back from her. Going to the Philippines recently was out of love for her because I wanted her to spend as much time with her family and friends as possible. So I have to take a back seat sometimes, to do what's best for her, because she's from another culture, another place. But that is fine because I love her. Now I've been back, I think, 4 times total, and I can't wait to visit again. Sacrificing for her, whether it's going to be financially, sacrificing time, to be with her, trying to give her a baby because that was important to her, is important to her, putting her above friends and family. This needs to take place throughout the marriage, not just when we are clicking and things are going well. As for after we got married and we're going through the spousal visa process, I loved her from a distance since we weren't together yet by communicating with her regularly, trying to learn about her, trying to prioritize her, living like we were married, just not with each other at the time, trying to be with her as much as possible, as if we were together, like we have been in America since those early days. So, how do you know that she loves you? Would be a fair question. Um, Christian Filipina on a dating site is a joke. Well, I found my wife there. I found my wife there. I am not presently working, by the way. A lot of people have found their spouse there. But if you're looking for a Christian Filipina, it's up to the man to ask the questions to discern if she is a Christian Filipina or not. You just always, there's nobody stopping people from asking questions, and so that's kind of what the early stages are for before you decide to actually go out and spend money and time meeting someone. Well, Sabong, I'm reading my notes here, so I'm not just going to be jabbering and repeating myself a lot. But since we do have uh, it is a live stream, and so I want to interact with the comments. Otherwise, there's no point in having a live stream. From a distance, isn't that a Bette Midler song? Well, it could be. Um, I suppose somebody has sang about that before. Mark and Neng says, if you want to meet a good Filipina, go live in the Philippines. Don't mess around the internet. Um, go to the market and find one working to make a living, or go to church there and meet one there. Well, that's good advice, Mark. Back then, I was what, 53 back in 2015, and I couldn't just up and leave. You can't here in the United States even get early retirement until you are 62. So, I suppose you could always, and I'm sure people have done this, just up and left, but you got to make sure that the decision you make is the right one. For somebody that can do that, others have done that. Still need to know what you're getting into. I suppose it might even be easier to get fooled if you're there surrounded by all these beautiful women. Maybe it's a little bit easier to, isolate and focus on one from a distance. But whether you're on the ground in the Philippines, or if you are doing it online, you always have to be cautious. You want to be aggressive, but that doesn't mean you throw all caution to the wind. But yeah, meeting, if you're there, yeah, I don't know why. If you look in the right places, ask the right people, how you couldn't find a good person that way too. Church socials, not necessarily. Why would a Christian even go on a dating site? Well, Sabong, as many Christians will tell you, they would like to find someone at church, but they can't. If the women there are already married or the single women already dating someone, or the single women aren't going there or are ashamed to go by themselves, or they don't want to go there and be hounded by the single guys. So, they go somewhere else. I don't know. I've been to, uh, churches that just didn't seem to have single women. One of them didn't have any. I went to another church. I would ask any other churches here nearby I can go to find a single woman. The answer is no, we don't have any single women. I mean, if you're 16, 18 years old, maybe. Once you get older, the answer to that may be no. So, is church a great place to find someone? Um, not, not necessarily. I mean, it should be, but practically speaking, your mileage may vary. The question: how do you know she loves you? If asking this question before our marriage, the answer would be that I can't know till after we are married. It would be better to rephrase the question as, how do you know if she is going to love you? All I could say at that point, and likewise for her, is I believe she will love me based on what she has told me and my general impressions. But beyond that, it's up to me to be the type of person she needs to be, so that I'm leading the way in being someone that she wants to stay together with. Under 8 weeks, and we were already husband and wife. I knew my motives better than she did at that point, so I believed I would be committed to her. I mean, I knew that, and my wife had to trust me that I was sincere, and I had to trust her too. I know we would like to kind of bypass that area of trust, and you can't. You can't. There's always going to be some element of unknown to that. All I wanted from marriage was basically companionship, touch, and sex, and my wife gives me that and a lot more. When we were in the Philippines, maybe a couple times ago, I hurt my back. It wasn't hurt when we got there, but I hurt it. Now, this is what she did for me. She fed me with she fed me in bed with a spoon. She showered me. She bought me a muscle relaxant from the pharmacy, and she paid for a full body massage the next day, all without complaint. She was loving me. She was meeting a need I had. She was being a good wife. Later, when I got the worst sore throat I have ever had, she went to about 5 pharmacies to look for something. Um, and I don't remember if we had to get a prescription or if she just asked for something and got it. But she was loving me, not just saying she did. Please watch a video I made on Filipina caregiving called In Sickness and in Health. I find it difficult to believe a couple can fall out of love. They must continue to love. It is an attitude, and when it stops flowing, the marriage starts faltering. Nothing else should come before the relationship of a husband and his wife, not even the children, not even their jobs, no one. I will not stop loving my Filipino wife. I deal with what we all do, and I have not buried my head in the sand. Like I said, there's going to be difficult situations. Not a lot of young single women in the church these days. Not where I have been, and I've heard that echoed by other people too. So I tend to think it's real. CebuWomen.com with Rona. I know nothing about that, Nico. Don't know what that is. So Bong says you make one little mistake, and that is like a drop of whiskey, and if you give them another taste too soon, they can fall off the wagon on any day. So I did catch that statement. Mark and Neng says, my Asawa didn't want to come to USA. I talked her into it. See, not every Filipina is just, has their life dream to escape the Philippines and come to America. She would have us go back to the Philippines, but she had pancreatic cancer, so it would be difficult to go back now. And I certainly hope she's getting a good treatment for that, Mark. Um, I think my wife, though, everybody's different. She was right up front. She wanted to work. Most of them are going to want to provide for their families. And, my wife had different jobs, and she's an excellent worker. And she likes working and having her own car. In the Philippines, you have to always pretty much be reliant on other people to get you around. But here, she loves it. She can get in her car, she can get in her bike, and just go somewhere. And that's really, really cool. I probably tell her more bad things about the country because I've been here longer and I see what's going on politically. But look, the Philippines has their own issues with corruption as well. So back to the topic, would it have made a difference, to wait longer, maybe another 3 months, 6 months? That's a fair question. I felt I knew about her what I really needed to know about her the most, and that was she was a Christian and believed I would be totally committed to her. So I simply asked her sooner than later. I had already waited the last 30 years alone and spent ample time learning about marriage and was eager to actually start being married. I had been praying throughout that span of time, so I felt prepared. But I don't think anything really prepares you for marriage better than being married. But just and going through those situations, just don't go in with rose-colored glasses. Be realistic, so you don't have unrealistic expectations for things. There'll be good times. There'll be times that won't be so good. Now there was also going to be a sizable delay of being together as we processed the visa. This ended up being about 8 months. If I would have put it off longer than I did, and it was fast, I'm not sure what that would have accomplished if I had waited another 3 months or 6 months. It seemed like it was 3 months, not 18 days when I proposed to her. We chatted at least 4 hours a day before we got married. So I got my chance to get to know her. I got to ask her good questions. And I have a list of questions on the lvbts.com website for ice-breaking questions, getting to know a Filipina better, gauging compatibility. And then there's a section on questions to ask her before you get married, as you get to that serious juncture. And then there's another one up there. I don't even know if I made a video on it yet. There's another one on there about questions to ask after you get married, because you always want to continue to learn about each other. My pastor even chatted with her. You can check out that video with Pastor Scott. And of course, it was very quick, but I had to ask myself if there was a good reason not to marry her so quickly. No one is guaranteed another day on this earth, and I wanted to get going. Boy, let's see. To refocus my eyes after I look at this. Mark says she's a CNA here right now. And I hope she continues to do well, Mark. So Bonk says mine won't even start after a year. There's an Australian guy on YouTube, makes worthwhile videos on YouTube. His name is Peter, I think. Australian Peter. So who would that be, Nico? Australian Peter. It's not Peter Vanderver. I can't remember the names right now because I'm focused on this. But I don't know who he is without his last name, I guess. Not at the moment, anyway. Mark Ning says, I thought the women in Cebu were a little more open than the women in Manila, probably more negative history with expats in Manila. And well, thank you, Nico. That gets down to the province, big city thing. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people say province only. My wife is from the province. She doesn't think you have to be limited to finding a good person in the provinces only. I mean, it really just depends where you. It depends on, I guess, what you're looking for. I mean, you can say that you attract who you are, and you want to who you are. You want to be consistent with, and not be changing things just to try to get somebody. If they don't like you for you, then they probably shouldn't. You don't want them. You want to state right up front. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm looking for. You're the pursuer, after all. This is what I need. And if you can't find them, then you just move on to someone else. So continuing here, what if she reveals something about herself later? That is disturbing. I mean, you get married so fast. What if, I don't know, shows up in a wheelchair or something? Well, that didn't matter to me because I told her I was committed to her until I died. She should feel safe with me that my love for her isn't based on her being perfect. Filipinas are beautiful for sure, but no one is perfect. Our marriage should be an environment where she doesn't have to be ashamed, to tell me anything or to make mistakes or to be real. I love her for who she is, warts and all. I don't just love her through the good times. Um, I've even told her, hon, you, I don't know, get a disease or get run over by a car or paralyzed. It doesn't change anything because she's still the woman that married me back then in 2015, and when nobody else would, I guess, and I respect her for that. I just think it's a commitment. It's kind of like if the Chiefs decide to pay who's their quarterback. Um, can't get my mind off the topic here. Anyway, if they want to pay him 35 million dollars a year, I mean, it should be um, a commitment, not, well, he's struggling or, well, he got hurt. Because if the Chiefs want him to play for them, then they need to make a commitment. Either you're all in or you're not. And that's kind of the way I felt with my wife. I was going to be all in. I would offer her, safety, commitment, no matter what. I mean, once I make the choice to offer her the contract, so to speak, and well, marriage probably is legally a contract, but it's more than that, then, she doesn't have to live up to unrealistic expectations for me to stay married. If something happens, something disastrous, well, that's life, folks, and it happens to somebody out there every day. Things that they think are inconceivable. But when I talk about commitment, I'm talking about no matter what, always, until the end. Um, all about Filipino relations. Oh yeah, well, yeah. The reason I didn't, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I know Pete. If you had said Pete, I probably would have figured it out. But Peter kind of threw me off. I started thinking about Peter Vandiver, and then I got distracted. But yeah, Pete's channel is he's in Australia, all about the Philippines. No, I'm sorry, all about Filipino relationships. Um, and besides his channel and mine, I mean, I don't come across too many channels that talk about relationships with Filipinas. Not really. And so, Yes, he says he's a qualified counselor. He is married to a Filipina. That's good. I always like to hear thoughts from people who are married because, like I said earlier, if you're not married, you have a safety net and you can leave anytime you want. And that's easy when you don't have to deal with the occasional ugliness of a relationship and misunderstandings and um, different different opinions or different thoughts for the future. It wouldn't be nice to say, oh well, that doesn't suit me. I'm out of here. But when you're married, you can't do that. And so, not that people that are not married, it's not that they can't give good marriage advice. I just prefer. I just think it's good that people are uh, married to give marital advice. Yep, red flags. And there are a lot of red flags, and I suppose there's new ones. I would just caution to not be intimidated by that. There are red flags. For example, obviously, well, maybe it's not so obvious. Don't give merit or money to somebody that you don't know yet, that you haven't made a commitment to. Like you are married. When we got married, my wife and I, um, she wanting to show me she can take care of herself, usually said, no, I don't need any help, I'm fine. And so I kind of had some disagreements about that because I thought, I'm your husband now, I need to take care of you. Well, no, I'm fine, I'll be okay, I can take care of myself. She doesn't want to feel weak and helpless. Now I've helped her a lot, of course, because I am her husband. um, but she doesn't she wasn't one of those people that made me concerned because they were asking for a phone or money for a sick relative or something like that. I know, well, I suppose if you're not up on that sort of thing, it would be very easily to get fooled. And some people get fooled multiple times in those sorts of things. We got married so quickly, I guess you could say, you know, I didn't see any red flags. It's another thing I could have said. There were no red flags, and she didn't really want me to send her money if it wasn't necessary. So the red flags are good. Um, but if you don't see any red flags, then you got to think about, can you make a commitment to this person, which of course is what I would like to see people do. And by the way, I am not a qualified counselor. I am married to a Filipina, 6 years almost, and I prepared myself, which I would recommend others do, or at least you know, maybe take what I say to heart because I do try to speak from a lot of experience. Always wanted to talk to people about being married. Always. When I was 23, 24 years old, I figured I'd get married real quick. So I wanted to learn all I could fast. I didn't know it was going to take so long. In the meanwhile, I learned a lot. Geo, yeah, I mean, I have seen Geo's channel. I wish these guys would get married, but I don't know. I hope they do. I don't think they're going to be very happy if they aren't. And there's just certain things you have to do to stay married, and hopefully I can be making those things clear here on Love Beyond the Sea. So I was talking about making a safe environment for my wife where you know she can say things she regrets, whatever, do things she regrets, and I'm not going to um, threaten divorce or hit her over the head with it. That's just, something you have to do. And doing this builds trust and intimacy. We all want, me too, a safe place to be and a safe person to be with. And marriage should be that safe place. I am much more open and transparent than my wife, so it's only natural that I would be more revealing than she would be early on. Um, and I didn't interrogate her while we were dating because she's more private. So the question, was she going to be different after marriage? Okay, well, in other words, will she show her true colors, as in maybe she was deceiving me before marriage? Maybe there were some red flags that I missed. Well, I have a video, or excuse me, I have wanted to title video, Don't Gamble in Love, a Filipina is a Safe Bet. However, I realize that there are times it doesn't work out. My purpose for this channel is to help foreigners and Filipinas have a successful relationship. And when I say successful, I think I am referring to marriage, because marriage is long term. Like I said, if you're not married and you don't like something or you find something better, what can they do to stop you? You haven't made a commitment. So just the way it is, I think commitment is good. It works both ways. I need it too. We will just have to take it one day at a time, because being in different situations will cause stress that we have not been under before together. For example, how will she respond to being so very far away from home? How will I respond, to actually having a relationship? And marriage is a lot better than dating. And if you skip the dating part, you got a big leap there. How would I respond if I became a father? If she became a mother, would that change her? What would our intimate life be like? How will she react to being able to earn money, have money, spend money? How will she respond to the culture over here in where I am, America? How will she respond to working here with, coworkers, to being married to an older, imperfect man? I prayed for a wife for a long time, and my church was also praying for a wife for me. Not very long, it took about a year once I humbled myself and asked them to pray for a wife. Not a girlfriend, a wife. Now that I have one, I trust God to be able to learn how to live with her and her with me. There always needs to be concessions and sacrifices. I never wanted to know everything about her. That's why we could get married quicker. There's only so much you can discover, and that is limited to your questions and what she thinks is important for you to know. Who to marry is a major decision in anyone's life, but that doesn't mean that there is a one-size-fits-all method to going about it. I should mention this, that for me, since sex before marriage wasn't an option, delaying this even more by protracting the dating process was not appealing to me. Even though we had seen each other on Skype, I told myself that even if she showed up in a wheelchair at the airport in Manila, that I was going to marry her. Before the actual wedding, I believe plans can still change, because until marriage, God has not joined the two together, and not until marriage. In our case, I wanted so badly to commit to someone to make their life better that I decided this was the one. Is this too soon to say you love her? Fair question. Yes, in a sense, it is. As long as our love isn't based on feelings, but is based on a commitment to meet each other's needs for the rest of our lives, no matter what. We tried, in fact, to avoid saying I love you until we met in person in April of 2015. Some people avoid saying I love you until they are engaged. The reason for this is to not cheapen real love. It is just too easy to say you love someone when you're not progressing towards marriage. When I told her I loved her, what that was really expressing was, I am committed to loving you for the rest of your life, and I will prove it by marrying you. Even arranged marriages have worked because the two focus on expressing love now that they are married. Adam, the first man, had never even known what a woman was when God gave him Eve as his wife, and he was commanded to love her. Another quick question here. Are you, that's me, in love with the idea of being in love? Yeah, I know what you mean there, Nico. Yeah, Mark, some people can be happy on their own alone. I am not one of those people. I'm not either. I couldn't imagine being without my wife. I couldn't imagine being on my own and not losing my mind too. So was I in love with the idea of being in love? Considering how long I had been without a girlfriend, this would be a good question. I had been in love before, but was rejected by a woman who preferred getting taken advantage of by a man who refused to marry her. I'd have to honestly say I was not in love with the idea of being in love. That is because I was in love with the idea of loving someone, of being responsible to love someone, of committing to them. I knew it would be challenging. I also had unmet needs as a single man that only marriage can meet, and that required getting married, not living in some daze of feeling in love. I sometimes wonder what is happening when a foreigner and a Filipino have known each other for years and he has not proposed marriage. Some have not even made a trip to see her in several years before COVID. Good grief. I do believe some men have been wounded through divorce, of course, and are going to be cautious. Some other men might be hesitant to pull the trigger, and yes, other men might want to stay in the dreamland of a dating relationship with a beautiful Filipina because they are in the safe zone and want to stay there. In marriage, the bloom is coming off the rose sooner or later. Then you have to deal with each other's sin weaknesses. If you're willing to accept that as part of a relationship, then that's good for you. Then I would want to get married as soon as possible. I hope this helps you understand my situation a little better. There was a method to my madness. To be honest with you, it did escape me that I proposed to her as soon as I did. It seemed like we had known each other longer. But maybe that's because we communicated so much early on. Somehow we make a good couple despite the cultural differences, age differences. Seems like she has been in my life for decades. Like I have known her a long time. Like I said in another video, it seems like I have kind of always known her somehow. I have never felt out of place or uncomfortable with her, not even from the very first day we met in person. A few years ago, I drove her car because she had taken mine and realized she was playing a flash drive with our wedding songs on it when I turned the car on. Man, was I pleased. I have the same list of songs on this computer here in the studios of Love Beyond the Sea, but for some reason they all play twice before going to the next song. So that's even better. See, I'm just a hopeless romantic. It was enjoyable hearing those songs again, bringing back memories of those early days when 8 weeks before we got married, neither of us even knew the other person existed. But she was the one I'd been praying for a very long time. So I believe that true love starts after you marry your love beyond the sea. So now you know. And it is, what is it? Wednesday? Feels like Friday. There's still time if anybody wants to ask about anything else. That's fine. Appreciate the thumbs up, even though there's 6 less now than there was before. That's not a good sign. And so this channel is about dedicated, real love with a woman from the Philippines, where you can be proud to be married. And whether it's all about Filipino relationships or here on Love Beyond the Sea, I don't think you have a lot of options out there for channels that are consistently talking about relationships. I do not espouse the sexpat lifestyle because it's using the women, and it's not going to be good for anybody. And I don't espouse that at all. So I'm all about marriage, getting married quickly. Yeah, Mark says, and thank you, Mark, for all your comments. I appreciate everybody's comments here tonight. I knew she was the one when I realized I'm always happy when I'm with her. So you're comfortable with her. There's something about it that makes you feel good to be with her. I like being with my wife. I mean, I it's hard to find good friends. Maybe when you're, well, when you're younger, like high school or college. Appreciate the thumbs up again. You have an easier time making friends, acquaintances, relationships. But at some point, people are going to separate. They're going to go their own way, not MGTOW. They're just going to move on with their life, move to another town, go to school. And, I kind of felt like when I was about 24, 25, that it was kind of too late. Not too late forever to get married, but I kind of felt that that was a time when if something hadn't happened by then, that it was going to take a long time. And it did. So I finally had to go to another country to get married. But the good thing is, like my wife said, she'd make me forget about all those 30 years. And she has. I love being married. I never wanted to be somebody's boyfriend because there's no commitment there. They can leave at any time to become somebody else's girlfriend. So I wanted a wife. I wanted to hold on to her as hard as I could. So I can relate to you, Mark, there. Now, we got married or committed to marry before we even met, but I certainly look forward to talking to her every day. And now, when she comes home, we'll be together. And, life goes by so fast. I just want to encourage people, especially young people. Some of the older guys in the Philippines vlogging community, and probably extends anywhere, get kind of jaded. I think they get a little lazy sometimes. I don't think they really want a real relationship, and it may be that they don't have confidence in themselves. Um, but whatever, if you feel like like I was, you're 53 years old, going on 93, you want to get married, don't give up. Don't give up trying to get married, because the option is staying single rest of your life. And I just can't imagine that. So Clark Henderson um, says, welcome, Clark, tonight at 8:31 p.m. Central Time. Marriage is a biblical blood covenant. Very few realize here is a deep spiritual significance in a virgin bride shedding blood on her wedding night. There's all kinds of imagery and symbolism um, with marriage. Of course, the picture of Christ in the church. God himself, essentially, Jesus, came to this earth for a bride. I mean, the Father was married in the Old Testament, and after about 600 years or so, he divorced faithless, adulterous Israel. But Jesus, before the world began, he was going to come for a bride. Marriage is God's idea. I'm not saying, hey, folks, I know more than you do. I think marriage is a good idea, and other people don't know that. God's known about marriage. It's his idea. He made people to be married, a man and a woman, to be married. That's the best way. That's the way it started. Nothing will be better than that. Is it getting more difficult to find a suitable spouse? Maybe. But it's a big world, right? You don't have to be limited to your zip code, your city, your state, or even your country. So yeah, it's a deep thing. I mean, anytime something is a picture of God's relationship with his people, and he went to the point of enduring her sin, which means enduring hell for an imperfect person, that ought to get your attention. And this is such a big thing, a deep thing, that it's easy to miss. It's not just a piece of paper. People say it's just a piece of paper. Since when is it just a piece of paper? I don't believe that. Well, not only, Nico, without God do you have nothing, but you are nothing. I mean, what we have, if God chooses to make you, your personality, your skills, your abilities, your talents, the experiences he gives you, the heart that he gives you, the liking for certain things. That's from God. You didn't choose any of those things. You didn't choose whether you're going to be a man or a woman. And you certainly can't choose that today, despite the nonsense of supposed 100 genders. How confusing. But you didn't get to choose your sex, your intelligence, your abilities, your talents. You know, we wish sometimes, I wish I had that person's abilities, that person's brains, that person's skills. Well, you have what God gave you for a reason, and we ought to be thankful for that. Yeah, Mark and Nang, thank you for the honest thoughts. And I appreciate you being here. I'm just trying to be real, because marriage is, I think, the best life, and it's not the easiest life, of course, but neither is being single. That's a tough life. Clark says, check out inplainsight.org, Choosing a Marriage Partner and the Divine Matchmaker. Interesting short read. Thank you very much, Clark. Inplainsight.org. I wish my wife would have been in plain sight, but I had to go look for her. But I think a lot of people are giving up the whole MGTOW movement, men going their own way. Ah, boy. So sad. But if people don't want to be married, it didn't work out, they should just not get married. But what I don't like is when they try to tell other people to not get married. I think that's stepping way out of bounds. Clark, before you go, is there any other comment you want to make, question you want to ask? Because otherwise it's time for me to end. I'm always grateful for comments. Never know how long this is going to last. Usually they're not short. One of these days I will make some short live streams. Yeah, I remember Clark. I remember you. I just don't remember. I mean, sometimes I'll see guys here on the chat, live chat, and then I say, well, I've seen them on other channels. And so I'm trying to look back to what other channels I may have met you on. So I'm glad you're here. I wasn't doing live streams for a while. Again, I want people to communicate. Otherwise, there's no point in even doing them. Just put up a video, but and it may come to that someday. But for me, I'm not. I guess I just would find that really boring to just make videos when I'd rather just talk. Want to know something? Ask. I probably will answer the best of my ability, and depending on what the question is. Yeah, I do remember you, Clark. Were you ever on Tom and Ruth's Philippine Adventures board or a channel, or just here? Yeah, yes. I remember now. I remember an email I believe you sent me. Yeah, I've been swamped for 1.3 years, and you are in Philippines, because I remember, Clark, you gave me some good advice on hospitals, and we have a house in Davao, and there's must be at least one good private hospital there in Davao, and there are some really good hospitals out there in the world, in places you wouldn't expect to see them. Should we live in the Philippines? I think, depending on where we are, we probably could find a very quality hospital. And I'm glad you found your way back to the channel tonight, Clark. I appreciate you being here. Not much has changed. I'm just here to talk about marriage. Is there many other people out there talking about marriage? Not that I know. People are getting married later in life, or they're thinking it's not worth getting married. Thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. I don't feel good about that. So I'm gonna push back a little bit. and be that guy that says, what are you talking about? Going your own way. What are you talking about being single? Why is being single better than being married? Well, people assume when you get married, you'll find a Jezebel or something. Well, don't marry a Jezebel. I mean, essentially, the man is responsible. He's the CEO. It's kind of like a sports team. Complains they never have a good quarterback. Well, then stop drafting bad ones. The organization, the team, somebody is responsible for drafting all the players, developing all the players, training them, um, and evaluating them and so on. So, being a big sports fan, I often look at sports and try to put marriage in sports terms. And, I'm the CEO of this marriage, so I'm not going to be a perfect CEO. I don't have to have 50 years of marriage experience to get married. I just need to get married and then learn how to be a good husband. And that's a lot better than going your own way today, in my opinion. I mean, I'm going to say that, and some people are going to be MGTOWs or I don't know, committed bachelors, and that's fine. I'm not here to you know change anybody's mind. What I am here to do is to help encourage those people that need some encouragement to maybe do something way out of their comfort zone, and that's try to find a wife in the Philippines. I love talking about it. I made a lot of videos about it, maybe 730, about 101 podcasts on casting beyond the sea. If you don't like to see me and ask questions or leave comments, you can just listen to podcasts over there, uh, newly created on lvbts.com. Mr. E designed that site. It's got the Twitter and the Facebook and some other things on there as well, things that relate to Love Beyond the Sea. So, Clark, good to see you. Good to see you, Mark and Nang and Nico Greco. I hate to miss anybody here. It's kind of a long line. Sabong, thank you for being here tonight. Some people I did not see. Michael V, thank you for dropping by, and Chip Shot for getting it all started about 2 hours and 22 minutes ago. So that's going to be it for me. Clark says you handled yourself well in the YouTube debate with, forgot his name. Well, and thank you for thumbs up number 7, or um, I did have 11, so maybe that means there were 4 trolls here. That's fine. Um, I don't have a moderator here tonight. Uh, I don't like to just run and hide if somebody uh, wants to be a troll, because I'm here to help people learn. And you know what? Maybe even a troll can learn something. Maybe, possibly. Uh, I just want people to not give up on getting married, because even with all the difficulties that I have alluded to in any relationship, any marriage, I still think it's the best because the benefits are just outstanding. So thank you, Clark. I appreciate that. You guys have a good rest of your Wednesday evening and a good rest of your week. I don't know when I'll do the next live stream or the next upload, but I do appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight about something very important to me, and that is marriage to a Filipina or marriage to anyone. Serving our King. Well, the King created marriage, and even the Bible talks about what does it talk about? Well, the new city of Jerusalem is a bride prepared for her husband. The husband going to prepare a place for his wife. There's marriage imagery in there too. There's just a lot more there than meets the eye. So, want to help people that would like to be helped get married. Like you to think, if that joker can get married, why can't I? So stick around, listen, subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea, watch some videos, tell other people about it. Just serious, down to earth marriage talk is what I want to bring to you. So you guys have a great evening, and I hope you have a wonderful week. This is Bob on Love Beyond the Sea.